Hello there, BookTube. My name is Nathan, and I am the Rambling Reviewer. I call myself that because, well, I tend to ramble in my videos. The other day, I read a story out of this, Japanese Ghost Stories by Lafcadio Hearn. And for those who don't know, Lafcadio Hearn was a he was a writer who lived from approximately the middle of the 19th century into the early 20th century. He was born to a Greek woman and a Irish soldier in the British Army. Um, and they broke up, they divorced, split, and he lived for a time in the U.S. in Cincinnati, Ohio. Was a journalist, wrote about uh, ongoing crime stories and also about black culture, which I think kind of shows a little bit of his xenophilia, his interest and appreciation for cultures outside of his own. I also think this is possibly because of the own uh, heterogeneous culture that he kind of grew up in, having a British father and a Greek mother. But that's just uh, what I think based on having read the introduction a little bit about him. But he also lived for a time in Louisiana, wrote about Creole culture, did a lot of translations on French writing, and then he lived in the West Indies for a time, wrote a novel set in the West Indies, and then he lived for a time in Japan. And he lived there until his death. He fell in love there. He married there. He fell in love with Japan. And he wrote a lot of books on a variety of aspects of Japanese culture. In fact, one of his books is called A Japanese Miscellany. And this volume collects stories from all across his writing career within Japan. And this provides for a varied writing or reading experience. It also provides for sometimes a confusing reading experience because you'll have, especially early on, stories that are taken from a larger text and you will get hints of the larger text. For instance, very early on, you have stories that are almost half ghost story and half travelogue, where Lafcadio Hearn is going somewhere and he hears a story from somebody. And similarly, you also have a lot of varied ideas of what ghost story in this case means. Some are straight up horrific, others are sad and melancholic, and some don't have ghosts at all. Some are folklore. So very, very interesting, but definitely worth a read. And I wanted to read a really short story to you all tonight. It's only 2 pages long, actually less than 2 pages long. And it is titled Mujina. On the Yakasaka Road in Tokyo, there is a slope called Kini-Kunizaka, which means the slope of the province of Kii. I do not know why it is called the slope of the province of Kii. On one side of the slope, you see an ancient moat, deep and very wide, with high green banks rising up to some place of gardens. And on the other side of the road, extend the long and lofty walls of the imperial palace. Before the era of the street lamps and the jinrickishas, this neighborhood was very lonesome after dark, and belated pedestrians would go miles out of their way rather than mount the Kini-Kunizaka alone after sunset. All because of a Mujina that used to walk there. The last man that saw the Mujina was an old merchant of the Kyubashi quarter who died about 30 years ago. This is the story as he told it. One night, at a late hour, he was hurrying up the Kinikunizaka when he perceived a woman crouching by the moat, all alone, and weeping bitterly. Fearing that she intended to drown herself, he stopped, to offer her any assistance or consolation in his power. She appeared to be a slight and graceful person, handsomely dressed, and her hair was arranged like that of a young girl of a good family. Ojoshu, which means honorable damsel, he exclaimed, approaching her. Ojoshu, do not cry like that. Tell me what the trouble is, and if there be any way to help you, I shall be glad to help you. He really meant what he said, for he was a very kind man. But she continued to weep, hiding her face from him with one of her long sleeves. Ojoshu, he said again, as gently as he could, please, please listen to me. This is no place for a young lady at night. Do not cry, I implore you. Only tell me how I may be of some help to you. Slowly she rose up, but turned her back to him, and continued to moan and sob behind her sleeve. He laid his hand lightly upon her shoulder and pleaded, Ojoshu, 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 listen to me, just for one little moment, listen to me. Ojoshu, Ojoshu. Then that Ojoshu turned around and dropped her sleeve, and stroked her face with one hand, and the man saw she had no eyes or nose or mouth, and he screamed and ran away. Up Kino Kunizaka he ran, and all was black and empty before him. On and on he ran, never daring to look back, and at last he saw a lantern, so far away that it looked like the gleam of a firefly, and he made for it. It proved to be only the lantern of an itinerant soba seller, who had set down his stand by the roadside. But any light and any human companionship was good after that experience. And he flung himself down at the feet of the soba seller, crying out, Ah! 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 Kore! Kore! roughly exclaimed the soba man. Here! What is the matter with you? Anybody hurt you? No, nobody hurt me, panted the other. Only scared you? Queried the peddler, unsympathetically. Robbers? Not robbers, not robbers, gasped the terrified man. I saw a woman by the moat, and she showed me. Ah! I cannot tell you what she showed me. He? Was it anything like this that she showed you? Cried the soba man, stroking his own face, which therewith became unto an egg, and simultaneously the light went out. So that is Mujina by Lafcadio Hearn. Very, very creepy, weird story. I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope you're all having a wonderful Christmas.